decided that they did not want to allow their students to walk out. We had reports of them blocking exits and moving all their staff into places to prevent students from leaving. I had a particular run-in with their vice principal. One of their vice principals telling me that me and a person I was working with, Ender, were going to be in trouble if we waited any longer because we were trying to get Chico High students. And I had to be like, we're waiting for any student that wants to join us. It was a good time. We focused on advocating for gun reform. We did not want semi-automatic or automatic weapons in the hands of a civilian because they really have no place. Like, you can protect yourself with other things, and that's all the Second Amendment is. It's the right to protect yourself and to bear arms, but you don't need to bear military-grade weapons. And another thing we're stressing is a hashtag REV. Register, educate, and then vote. The only way we're going to get gun reform to happen is to get the people who are taking money from the NRA and who don't have us and our safety as the first priority out of office. And the only way we can do that is educating everybody, getting them registered to vote, and then voting those people out of office.
Typically, your generation and young people in previous generations have been the least likely to vote. So do you think that's going to change?
I would love to see that change. I hope it's going to change. I know that some young people don't necessarily think that by them doing anything it's going to change anything, but like, you have a voice, so like, you might as well use it. Like, you're just standing by, like, you're part of the problem. Like, you gotta be proactive. I really hope people are going to get more involved and definitely vote.
What are you hearing from your peers that are going to turn 18?
I am a junior. I'm only 16. All my friends that are over 18 are all registered to vote. They're all pretty proactive too. Like, I don't really go to school anymore, so I'm not sure what the high school kids are saying.
So
that would be these two. What
do you do when you're not going to school?
I just like hang out with my dogs. I work as a lifeguard also.
Explain that more. People are gonna
are
think
you
you're just skipping school.
GED or what's your?
Oh no, okay. I took the high school exit exam, and so I don't. Yeah.
So you're finished.
I'm finished.
At 16.
16.
Wow. What's next?
I get some extra summertime, and then I'm going to Butte in the fall.
Great. Colin, tell us why you're here. What kind of leadership have you been involved in, and why?
Hey, I'm Colin. Sometimes I complain about politics. I got involved in this because personally I was interested in the walkout when I first heard about it being organized. And when it came to actually organizing it, I actually didn't have too much in the hands of that. Essentially what I was doing was I was running various social media accounts to try to organize people to walk out. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything more to really say about me. I'm just your ordinary high school student.
You know what's interesting to me is a lot of people around the country who've had a leadership position in any form have been also in AP classes. What is the correlation that you're smart? Is a correlation AP? You discuss politics. Any ideas?
AP students get angry easily.
Why is that? They have to study so hard they're grumpy?
Probably.
You're an AP student.
I think it's because AP students, since it tends to be students who are getting higher grades and they have a very high level of working for stuff, So when I think about that, I think AP students are very heavily involved in this.
Because they're disciplined?
Not necessarily. I just think because we're kind of at the point when it comes down to it that we kind of, when it comes to high school, we kind of know most of the stuff we're being told, which gives us time to focus on more political stuff, at the same time. So I've met plenty of people who aren't AP students who are doing the same thing, so I don't know if I'd necessarily say that. I think it's just maybe people in those positions feel better speaking out, which gives them leadership positions.
Because they have confidence?
Yeah, I think being in AP classes gives you a sense of ego. A big inflated
people,
ego.
yeah.
Some people. I think that we should take a moment to reflect on what we mean by the word smart. Like that's just like something that I view as like the school system has created to exclude people. I don't I don't think there should be a separation between smart and dumb kids. I think that we should be as open and all-inclusive as possible. Everybody needs to be involved with this movement. I don't think that AP classes should have any identifying matter. Like, I was in one AP class just because I like science, and I took that as an elective. And I was definitely failing it the entire time, but I was having a good time. I don't think that AP classes are a great thing, and I saw a bunch of people struggling with that, and I think that people are people, and you can do without the public school system.
I completely agree. I also think when it comes down to it, as you were saying with the term smart, is there are so many different ways. I don't think anyone's dumb. You can't see my air quotes, but I'm using air quotes. I don't think anyone's really dumb. I just think their focuses are in different places,
Yeah, that's
Some people are interested in sports. Some people are more focused in social activities, while some people really are focused on school. And that's why you also see people who aren't too interested in school who are very interested in politics and what's going on, such as myself.
Yeah.
Do you want, as an AP student, Makayla, do you want to say anything, add anything to that discussion?
I would say that AP classes aren't necessarily different from regular classes. Some of them, like history classes, AP are a lot different than a normal history class. There's definitely a differentiation. Can't say words.
You got it.
Okay. But for an English class, I'm in AP English, and I don't see much difference between that and another English class. Just the difference is I have to pay for a test to take at the end of the year. So in that regard, there's not much difference. And of course, I don't think that all people in AP classes are necessarily intelligently smart, but if you're in an AP class and you've probably figured out how to work the system enough to get past.
Oh my god. I just burped into the mic.
So.
Well, comment on that. How do you work the system? So if you get good grades or whatever, so because you want to go to a good college, because you want to get a good job.
Yeah.
Pretend to care.
Yeah, pretend to care.
But that doesn't help you on a test.
Copy other people. You might not have the best test grades, but you can get everything
See,
else
the thing
in.
about AP classes, or at least my experience in them,
It's not
you're
as much-
giving the material, you're getting the material in a different way, and you're going at a faster pace.
Yeah.
And in my AP Bio class, over half of our class percentage of our grade was labs and stuff. So I was learning the material in a completely different way, and my tests were the only thing holding my grade up. Everything else, I learned a lot from that class, even though I failed it. I don't think grades should equal intelligence.
Grades are a whole nother subject.
Yeah. I think it's important to acknowledge also that when it comes down to it, the reason that we're taking a test at the end and the other classes aren't is because at least the classes I'm taking, are very much garnered for the test. They're not necessarily trying to, well, they are teaching you the stuff, but they're doing it in a way that they're trying to prepare you to pass a test.
Yeah.
It isn't
The majority... Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I'll finish up real quick.
Yeah.
It's not like when you take a history class and they're this is the important stuff to know in your life. When you're taking an AP history class, what you're learning is, hey, know this name because when you use it on the test, you're going to look good and you're going to get a good grade.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely
hegemony
true. Most of the second semester is spent preparing for the AP test, because if you do well on that test, you can essentially get college credit for that class.
Yeah.
So the second semester is spent being oh, this is how you do free write questions, and use this word here and this word here.
It's a lot of rewriting essays that are the same thing, and I know in my class we've been like creating prompts that are like exactly like the AP prompts, and then like giving them to each other, and then writing them, and then
Critiquing
writing them
them.
again, and so it's a lot of preparation for that. But like, it does help you. Like if you wanted to be a writer, like this stuff does help you, but it is definitely like geared toward the test.
A kind of tangential question is, whenever I go to a high school, you can look and see, oh, the Mexican American students are eating lunch in this group, the Hmong students are eating lunch in this group, the jocks and the cheerleaders are eating here, the preppies. Is that still going on? What do you think about that idea, that there's distinct cliques based on ethnicity, interests?
I mean,
go ahead.
Okay,
No.
so I went to Inspire. We weren't a very cliquey school. I mean, like we kind of were if you like went
you
there.
guys
How many students are in Inspire?
A little over 400.
Oh, it's gone up.
Okay, yeah, it's a little over 400, and I don't feel that we were very cliquey. We were cliquey in kind of a different way. I know people have like different experiences and everything, but like I had an okay time there. I met some pretty cool people, and like I don't feel like there were any like strictly like ethnic groups. I know we had like a dancer group and like the theater kid group,
there's definitely, like,
the
the theater kid
electronic
group.
music group, and then
Electronic music group. That's so specific.
There's like the engineering
literally
kids.
a thing.
It's separated by like major, like those
Yeah,
are,
we
those are
had
the
things
cliques.
called like majors, so we had like science majors and engineering majors. I was a double major, don't want to brag or anything, even
Yeah.
though I dropped out.
But did they wear different clothes? I mean, so you could look and know, oh, that's...
No.
Not necessarily.
But what about at Chico High?
At Chico High? I don't know that you could actually like know that is like a different group. Like if you go to Chico High, like I know that there's like different groups per se, but it's more like friend groups. Like it's not necessarily that like one is better than the other.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
Friend
like
groups.
they can get along if they like want to or if they try, but it's
So you're saying there could be groups with a jock, a cheerleader, a nerd, a theater person? That seems unlikely to me.
I mean, my friend group is pretty mixed up of a lot of different people from different backgrounds. So,
But are you a theater group person if you had a label?
See, that's all. I
don't know.
I think we
I
should
don't
take
know.
some time here to deconstruct this whole idea. Like what are cliques even? Like
Sound like Jerry Seinfeld.
what makes you a
jock
theater
or-
person or a jock or like, because you can like so many things, and like the whole idea of labels is like, what the heck, man?
Labels is
like people can be so many different things, and a little bit from here and a little bit from there. Like labels are just a way to make you conform and be what's the word?
Conform is a good one.
Conform. No, there's a better one.
Okay, disclaimer. I did go to Inspire for a semester my freshman year, so that's why I'm like butting in and being like, yes, I agree.
Traitor.
That was a joke.
I like Chico High. I like Chico High. Inspire was really cool, and I did really like it there.
Shout out to all their teachers.
Shout out to the teachers. Shout out to Miss Olson. I love her.
Also Miss Reynolds.
That's also true. Anyway, I think the fact that Inspire has more like cliques in that way, that I am like a part of all the cliques and not at all. So that's why I didn't really like fit in there and why I transferred. Whereas at Chico High, like everyone's kind of like, some people are very, this is what I want, but a lot of people like don't really know what they want, whereas at Inspire people usually know what they want.
In terms of like, I'm a musician, I'm a dancer.
Like I'm a theater kid, I want to do piano, I want to do engineering, I want to do art, I want to, like everyone knew, and I was like, I just kind of want to feel around and hang out with everyone. But, so yeah.
Colin, you wanted to say something, I believe.
Yeah, I was going to say that when it does come down to cliques forming, when we're talking about things such as like the jocks and the cheerleaders, you got to keep in mind a large amount of that is that these people are basically forced together because of the activities they're doing. So of course jocks are going to be around each other because they have
They're together every day.
What are rehearsals for sports guys? What are those called?
Practices.
Practices?
Hey, that's kind of, yeah.
Yeah, practices.
Yeah, they have practices.
Like, I know track meets every single day until like 5:30.
And when you're doing that, of course you'll get pulled together. That's why I think it's normal to see like theater groups together because they have auditions all the time. Of course they're going to get pulled together.
Yeah.
Jocks are around each other all the time. However, there is a lot of mixing going on. Sometimes, as humans, we like to put people in boxes so we're able to kind of easily understand where they are, you know?
Especially in high school. It's not
Yes.
the same in college.
However, when you actually start talking to people, you really realize that they're so much more than their labels.
For
Yeah.
sure.
Right. But in high school, it seems like one of the key roles is you're forming an identity, so it kind of makes sense that people would take on, oh, well, right now I'm a jock, or right now I'm a nerd, or whatever it is, as this exploration of who am I, maybe different than my parents.
Yeah.
You want to be around people who you want to be, you know?
You want to be around people that like make you happy.
Speaking of being around people who make you happy
Yes.
and being who you want to be,
Yes.
tonight there's going to be a show at the Exhibition Dungeon, 610 West 1st Avenue. It's a punk basement show. The Cutthroats are playing. My band Helicopter Kids is playing. $5 suggested donation. No one will be turned away for lack of funds. It's all inclusive. It's a fun time. And I have a show coming up at the Normal House on June 1st to benefit the Anti-Police Terror Project. They are a project based in Sacramento, ran by all people of color working against police brutality and state-sanctioned violence. They advocate for direct action and help put together court cases for victims of police brutality. Iver, a local darkwave band, the homies from Outside Looking In and Cell Block, and then CVP and Gay Boy Gang and Gork and Helicopter Kids again. Y'all should come out for those shows. It's gonna be a good time.
What do you play?
I play bass in Helicopter Kids, and I'm organizing the benefit show.
Do you sing too?
Sometimes.
Vaguely.
Sometimes I have
Vaguely.
I have some solo projects going. It's a good time.
What are you thinking about majoring in at BU?
I don't know. I only want to go there for a couple semesters and then transfer to like College of the Redwoods, like and then chill on the coast.
And
Maybe to go
trees.
to Humboldt eventually.
Hey, that's what I was talking about.
Dude, Humboldt's sick. Like I'm super into sustainability, and they're like the best school for social justice and sustainability. I'm looking forward to it.
My son
Like
went
English.
there.
Yeah, my mom went there, and a couple of my friends did too.
It was so cute. He brought home like a dozen of his friends one Halloween, and they were so shocked that people would litter or throw glass. They were like, oh,
Yeah, it's like not a thing there.
If I see
No.
someone throwing a glass bottle, I'll freak out because it'll hurt my dog.
Also true.
well, yeah. Let's talk about tactics. So, in terms of organizing to make a difference, what have you noticed works? What doesn't work?
Being organized and planning works. I think Makayla wants to say something about this.
Well, go ahead. Finish what you said. Organize.
Organizing with many people, getting all sorts of people's help and direction and guidance, especially being young people doing this. I found that having people who know their resources is a huge thing. I've worked very closely with Araya. She's a local activist. Rain as well from Chico Peace and Justice Center. Like having those people guiding us and giving us resources and everything was really, really great and helpful.
This is in terms of the March for Our Lives.
None of us planned March for Our Lives.
Oh, that was a PB.
a different group of people. We've tried to combine forces with them. It didn't exactly go to plan, but it's okay. Me and Makayla are from Never Again Chico. We planned
Town hall.
we planned town hall for our lives, and when we were two kind of separate committees planning the walkout, we kind of smushed together from Chico High and Inspire and became Never Again.
Yeah.
What do you think happened with why the PV organizers didn't work with you on the town hall?
I'm not really sure. I know that when the walkout happened, PV had sort of a similar situation to Chico High where they were not allowed to go off campus.
They went on the football field.
They went on the football field, and I heard the exits were blocked. I know some particular students felt extremely unsafe and like their rights were being infringed upon.
Yeah,
I don't think that I haven't talked to anyone from PV that has planned to accept Rose, and Rose she did a good job. I appreciate everything she's doing. She just wouldn't really work with us. We had a run-in, but it's okay. Like, we're on the same team. We're working for the same thing. Like, it's okay. Hopefully we're going to get past it and eventually be able to join forces.
Okay, so we're saying that one tactic that works is to have mentors and to be really organized, and something that can inhibit is people not working together well for whatever reasons.
Oh, people totally need to work well together to be to be organized and plan something like this. Like, everybody on Never Again Chico, we have spent so much time with each other that we're all pretty good friends. Me and Kaylin, like the two main founding members, who planned the walkout also when we had the rally downtown and marched and everything. We are like an old married couple at this point. Like, we know literally everything about each other. Like, we've spent so much time just FaceTiming each other, and we know the ins and outs of each other's houses. We're set. We have a favorite story of when we first met each other and everything. Being really close with people helps a lot because you're going to be spending a lot of time with them.
The Parkland students who are organizing Never Again said they're like a family because they spend so much time together.
Yeah.
Why don't you add to that, Makayla? What tactics work? What gets in the way of success of an event of direct action?
I think that with high school, a lot of students aren't gonna go out and search for information. So I think it was very important to us to make sure that information was right there in front of their faces.
Yeah, definitely offering information.
How do you get in front of their face?
Just posting on social media, trying to at the walkout we had a whole booth dedicated to just information
On
that
the
was
quad.
we want to get information out there and know. Our Facebook page for Never Again Chico, we constantly update.
Multiple social media accounts. Our Twitter is at Never Again CD1. Our Facebook is Never Again. The N and the A are capitalized Chico. Look us up. We're always posting. We're spreading awareness. We're educating. We're working on getting an event together to register people to vote. Especially since graduation's right around the corner.
Makayla, what works, what doesn't work in terms of tactics that we should apply to any kind of direct action organizing?
I think that organizing things in smaller groups is more efficient. Some people would probably disagree.
Like task groups, and then you meet together as a whole.
Yeah. Just because we have a small group for Never Again Chico, and we are really productive. We get stuff done. Everyone knows their place, and we're all friends. So we're willing to make compromises and just do what we can to make it work. Whereas,
roughly how many are in Never Again Chico?
So there's Makayla, there's me, Kaylin, Jordan, and Lucinda.
Yeah, Lucinda.
And they're all female identified. In other words, there's no guys.
Makayla is would you like to share your pronouns?
I go by she, her.
Kaylin also uses she, her pronouns. Jordan and Lucinda as well use she, her pronouns. I, however, use they, them pronouns. I identify as a genderqueer, gender nonconforming person.
So that was half a dozen people?
There's 5.
Yeah, 5 of us.
With no guys?
Yeah,
that's
right.
Where do you... Well, let's ask Colin that. Where I want to ask you the tactics question, and then where are the guys in all this?
Okay, well, first, I really quickly want to shout out Lucinda, who's one of the people I worked with. She kind of brought me into
Lucinda.
it.
Woo! She's really cool. So is her mom.
Oh yeah, shout out to Lupita.
Lupita and Lucinda.
Yeah, she was kind of the person who got me involved in organizing. However, I was kind of more of like leave school campus, and Lucinda was also helping with the on-campus thing.
Yeah.
So we were kind of in different circles, but still really awesome to have Lucinda kind of pull me into it. And also, we still talk a little about like politics and stuff. So shout out Lucinda, and then also shout out Ender, because Ender was another person who dragged me into this.
Ender and I worked really closely together, planning the walkout at Inspire and the rally and the march and everything.
How does that person, what pronouns would that person use?
Ender uses he, him.
Did I say go by he, him pronouns?
No.
Oh yeah, share your pronouns,
there you
Colin.
go. He, him pronouns. I'm Colin.
What are your pronouns, Gayle?
She. Colin, why do you think that across the country more women are organizing, except maybe the Parkland students? And in terms of all the marches, it's 70% women for science, for climate change, women of all ages. What do you think? It's a reaction to Trump, or what's happening to the guys?
I think a big part of that is the fact that the Women's March happened when Trump was inaugurated. It was shortly after, correct?
Yeah, women's
dates.
empowerment has been a huge thing.
And I think also
in reaction to Trump, his sexism.
Yeah, of course. I mean, quick tangent, he's made some comments that are inexcusable, and I don't want to hear anyone excuse them, even though lots of people try to.
Yep.
Woo! I'm cheering myself now.
We should all do that.
I think the president is a big part in this, since we do see him openly making sexist comments, and then his defenders will defend it and act like he said nothing. I think that's a big part of it, and getting people pulled into it, and just realizing, like, of course sexism is still a thing, but seeing that he's able to become president with all the terrible stuff he said, I think was a big eye-opening moment for a lot of people. Specifically me, because of course when he was running, I was like, oh, there's no way he's going to win. We're
no
living.
way.
No.
Yeah, it's 2016.
Yeah.
Who's going to vote? Who's going to vote him into
that?
Who's gonna vote
office?
for this idiot?
Yeah,
And then
Millennials.
look what happened.
yeah.
Well,
So
he didn't
I-
get the popular vote.
Yeah.
He didn't get the popular vote, but he still won.
Yeah.
So I think that is a big part of it. But also when it comes down to it, lots of the protests that are popping up are big left-leaning things, and feminism is such a big, like, part of like the left-leaning ideology. I believe that's also a big part of it. It is the women's chances now to stand up and be like, hey, we have voices too, you know?
What do you hear from male friends in terms of their attitudes towards the walkout or the marches or whatever? Are they like, eh? Or are they like, oh, I care, but I was in bed sleeping, or what's the deal?
Let's see. For my friends, I had friends who walked out. I'm talking about my male friends. I had male friends who walked out. I had friends who were too worried about school, which is understandable because they're also AP students, and AP students are conditioned to only care about grades.
Our condition. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, also teachers for the walkout, I know, like the school can't really take a stance on it, so teachers were not really able to accommodate students to make them comfortable and able to leave.
Yeah. A lot of
So,
kids.
so that could be a thing. Definitely didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no.
Go for it.
Without naming names, I actually talked to a teacher earlier today who was voicing happiness towards the walkout and regret in the school's involvement in trying to prevent it. Although I'm not going to name names because I don't know if someone can be targeted for that.
Right.
So when it comes down to people who I've talked to who have been against the walkout, it has been, for the most part, I don't have too many friends who are right-leaning. The ones I do have kind of been like, who cares, do what you want. Although I've had people who are like, walking out is going to do nothing, which is a big thing you hear from, I've heard specifically from the right, is people saying walkouts do nothing, so what's the point of organizing all of these, even though it gets lots of attention, so.
The bigger picture is now more women are graduating from college than men. More women are in graduate school, I think, especially in some programs. They're half the med students and the law students now. So what's happening? It looks like there's some issue facing young men.
People are real. I think that when it comes down to it, a lot of men are supportive of women getting these better positions, because I do feel like a lot of men are against sexism, which is awesome. However, because of that, you're also seeing lots of groups popping up, such as, again, air quotations you can't see, movements such as menimists, who are like,
the men's rights crowd.
Yeah. Oh man, females are taking
You
over.
already have
and
the rights. You don't need to
Are there any
protest that.
menimists at Chico High?
I'm sure.
There are probably some people who would do stuff like that ironically.
Where did you hear that term? I haven't heard it.
It's a big social media thing.
It's like men, like
Yeah,
feminists.
I got that. I just haven't heard it
because like
before.
feminism is like for gender equality, and then like, but some people view it as like for women's rights, but then like men, it's like men's rights. Clarification: feminism is for everyone.
Absolutely.
Equality.
Any additions to what works and doesn't work in terms of tactics? How do you get people out? How do you make a change?
I think you need to prepare for opposition, because specifically running a again, I wasn't too involved in organizing a whole bunch of people walking out. However, I was running social media pages that were promoting it. So I noticed that there were a lot of people. Of course, there were people who did have normal concerns about it. People who would message me and be like, I feel like so many people are manipulating this to simply get out of school, which I think was an accurate concern, because I do know people who did that. So there's stuff like that. But again, there are people who go on there and just say vile stuff, like, what you're doing is going to change nothing. There's no point. You guys are hippies who want to walk out of school. And then, of course, you also had the big thing where one of the original dates being planned for the walkout was the 20th of April, which, in case you don't know, is a big day synonymous with drugs. So we also had a lot of people messaging, essentially being like, oh, you guys are just druggies who want to do drugs, and that's why you're organizing this, which eventually forced us to move the date back.
Mature.
So how do you deal with that kind of opposition?
The thing I noticed, specifically when it comes to debating the right for me, it's, this isn't everybody, is they like to make a big commotion because they want attention brought towards them. Specifically in debates, although I feel a lot of people do want to have rational debates that go to like, let's come to a compromise. A lot of people realize that the people making accusations appear to be on top. So I think in that way, as if you don't give them
offense.
if you don't give them a chance to keep accusing you of stuff. For example, if you just stop, specifically when it came to me, I was like, don't block anyone on these unless they're making like actual death threats, because if you do that, then they're just going to go everywhere and be like, oh, you're against freedom of speech. Look at these leftists wanting to take away our freedom of speech.
Wow, those leftists. I hate to butt in. I have to go play a show. Come to the show. It's at the Exhibition Dungeon, 610 West 1st Avenue. Show starts at 7:30. Y'all should come.
And I
Bye,
can,
best
I can
wishes
stay
with the
for just
show.
a little bit longer.
Bye.
I gotta get to Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat performing at Chico High School at 7 p.m. Tonight. Also Saturday night, and a 2 o'clock matinee on Sunday.
Tell us what you think about your generation, how it's different than Generation Y or the millennials or Gen X. What do you think that's kind of characteristic of your generation?
I think that there's definitely a difference between the two. Like my parents grew up in a very different environment.
Are they Gen X?
Yeah, I believe so.
They're in their late 30s, 40s?
Yes.
Okay.
Just to ask to be sure, what generation is the...
Generation Y is in their late 20s and 30s
Yeah,
now.
that's
and
the
X are
millennials,
teenage.
correct?
Yeah, the Y and millennials are the same.
Yeah, and then the baby boomers are going to be...
They're old. They were born
Okay,
in the 40s
got it.
and 50s.
Yeah, and
then-
there's so many names.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
And
sorry.
then your
I'm bad with
generation
terms.
Z.
Yeah.
Yes, I knew that.
We knew that one.
Okay, so what's different about Generation Z?
I think we are learning more that we can actually think about what we want and what's right, and that we have the ability to attain that. I'm trying to find a person example to compare. Like, my mom and grandma always tell me, like, sit with your legs closed. Like, that's a normal thing for them. But
Be a lady.
yeah, be a lady. But that, like, we've completely changed that. And we've, definitely not all of us, but I think as a whole we're just more accepting and more open-minded. And we mostly just want to, like, just be happy. We just want to feel safe and happy, and we're not, like, as worried about everything.
Be safe, does that mean because of the school violence and terrorist threats and the drills in school? What do you mean, be safe?
Be safe is definitely, like, involves gun violence. Like, it's odd that someone can go buy a gun, like, on a whim and then come directly to a school and, like, just harm people. Like, that's frightening to me.
Your generation grew up with social media. You grew up reading Harry Potter books. You grew up with Disney princesses that were started to be brave.
Yeah.
What do you think is the impact in the characteristics you listed of all that social media, music, the popular culture? How did that influence your thinking, do you think?
Well, I mean, it definitely did. Colin,
I personally think that when it comes to Gen Z, that there are starting to become more and more extremes on each side because of those. Specifically because with social media, suddenly you are connected to everyone, you know? With a few simple keystrokes, you can find, I don't want to say a million, you can find a whole bunch of people like you, you know? So I think in that way, it's kind of opening people up to new political ideas, not just on the left, but on both sides. We're kind of seeing more and more extremes when it comes to it.
Because you have allies that can pull you in
exactly.
different directions.
That's why I think that's another big reason for the alt-right, for example, you know? Without social media or the internet, the alt-right wouldn't exist, you know? So I think in that way, social media is a big effect because, of course, for people like me, it allows me to connect to other Gen Z kids who are, angry with capitalism, you know? So, but it also allows people on the right who are like, communists are the worst, you know? So in that way, I think there's a big split that social media has kind of caused.
What platforms do you use? I know Facebook is passé now, right?
Kinda, yeah.
I'm still on Facebook.
I'm on Facebook.
I'm essentially using whatever my friends are using. I prefer to use social media in a way that connects me to my friends.
So what are they using?
Yeah.
Instagram, Snapchat, that's primarily what I use.
Yeah.
I'll use things such as Reddit because I think that's a good place to debate people and get new ideas. However, there are very toxic communities on there.
Yeah. Personally, I use Snapchat like the most. It's like, I feel like it's like more normal than texting to me at this point. I use Twitter and Tumblr. Twitter is like, I get to be, that's where I really like find groups. Like, you can find information, like I talk to a lot of vegans and people who support like what I support, like gun control and things like that. And so it's really nice to have something to talk to.
How would you say that your thinking is different, say, than your parents' generation and their friends, the people you know? You said you want to have fun, you want to be safe.
I think overall we're just more accepting. Like, we know that things are going to happen and we can't avoid them. Like, some things are just a part of life. And I think our parents tried to hide us from those things a lot of the time, and because that's what they were raised doing. Like, if you don't talk about it, it like doesn't exist. I'm fortunate enough that my parents were really open with me, and are just really fantastic people, actually.
Wonderful. Some people say that your generation are snowflakes, fragile teacups, that they've been so supervised and organized by their parents that they fall apart if something is stressful. They're anxious and depressed, and they have struggled going to college, and their parents call their teachers and that kind of thing. Do you think they're snowflakes and fragile teacups or not?
I don't think as a whole we are. I definitely know some of those people that exist in the world, but I also know people that are completely on their own and they've taken charge of their life and they're only 16. So there's big differences, and I don't think you can put an entire generation into one category or one thing.
Right. So it seems to me that your generation is braver and more outspoken, and willing to take on adults. I think, like the Parkland students, they're not respectful of adults. They think adults have messed things up, and that it's up to young people to save the planet because they've effed it up, as they keep saying. Do you think that that's a common kind of point of view or not?
I don't think it's actually very common. I kind of hold that mentality, just because like this generation is like going to be the first that doesn't make as much money as doesn't make more money than their parents. We obviously, our ecosystem isn't doing very well. Like we're kind of in a bad place, and we're going to have to do a lot to fix it. But yeah.
How do you deal with the fact that, like, Scott Pruitt and the EPA is doing everything possible to roll back environmental protections, and Trump wants to pull out of the Paris Accord and says that climate change is a hoax? I mean, that's so frustrating.
Yeah.
I don't know how do you deal with it, knowing you have to spend the rest of your life on this planet?
Honestly, I've kind of just like accepted it. I've accepted that we're gonna go extinct pretty soon.
Oh, wow.
And that I don't think that we can necessarily fix it in the next, 1,000 years.
So the cockroaches will take over?
Yeah, probably.
That's sad.
Yeah. So I'm just doing what I can to be happy,
Not necessarily sad when you think of it as a return without the people who ruined the earth. It's actually kind of happy.
Yeah, we're going back to our roots in a way.
There we go.
We're talking so positively about this.
Everyone's dead.
But that's kind of our mentality, as this generation. We're kind of okay.
We accept what is.
We accept that you messed up a little bit, but we're going to make the best out of it.
The funny thing I've kind of noticed is that the whole generation kind of seems to think everyone messed up, which is hilarious.
Everyone thinks everyone
you
messed
could
up.
look to the right, and the right's like, ooh, we're too left now. And you can look at the left, and the left is like, ooh, we're too right now. Which is kind of hilarious, because that means our generation is so fixated on changing stuff because everyone thinks that just the world we live in is bad.
When you can just accept it and just be like, well, it might be bad, but it's what we got, so.
Which I think also leads to a lot of people who do want political change. I know I do. However, at this point, it almost feels futile arguing for the ecosystem, because businesses want money.
Yeah, people want money. People are greedy. That's just
so short term. But what I never can understand is those business people and Scott Pruitt. They have kids and grandkids. Don't they care about their own families' health and well-being and trashing the planet?
They want money.
They might think they do, but in reality, you can't do that and also say that you care.
And they want money.
That comes first, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
So if I understand this right, your generation, because it's faced with so many disasters, troubles, negative news, your way of dealing with it is, well, I'm going to enjoy what I can and change what I can and not worry about what I can't change?
Not necessarily, I don't think, because we are seeing the walkout, so people are ready to like fight back, you know? However, I do think there is kind of a bit of like futility to it, you know? I do think there is an understanding that although we're fighting back, at the same time, so much is out of our hands that we just need to be able to realize that we can continue to at least show that we want change, even if it won't happen. Because there is a point where all you can do is try, you know?
Yeah. Like,
as sad as that is.
Yeah, it's more about changing, like, the societal aspect and changing, like, the ideals, and that's not going to happen, like, overnight. That's a thing that has to change really slowly. So it's, I would say, like, more just if you have a positive vibe and, like, you have a positive mentality, if you spread that, then it's like it's contagious, and if enough people have it, then we will change as a society. But like, it's not going to change by like one vote or like one.
Actually, it has. There was a case, I think, in Virginia where one vote made a huge difference in who was in this. I don't know if it was city or state level. So one vote does make a difference.
Yeah, I meant more like one election, like as a whole, like in 1 year.
Except 2016 made a big difference.
Yeah.
It made a big difference, but things can get easily destroyed. It's really hard to put stuff together. Like if I like went into Cohen's bedroom and I had a minute to destroy it,
You could do more
I
destruction
could do
than
so
building.
much damage. And if I was like, okay, you have a minute to fix it,
Right.
it's not that easy.
Oh, that's such a good analogy.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I got it from my chemistry teacher actually. He involved a chainsaw though.
Yeah.
So
I also want to say that when it comes down to it, that means there is kind of a focus on things that people think they can change, which I think is why the left has become so synonymous with like social reform versus economic reform, you know? Because the economy, we're in a capitalist society, that's not really going to change, you know? However, I think people are able to push for social reform now more because every bit helps, you know? Which, by the way, really quickly, want to shout out Doug LaMalfa on his website, has a photo in the photo gallery of him holding a sign against gay marriage. Woo! You're the worst, man.
What amazes me about him is he says he thinks it's a joke to say, I think climate changes, which means he doesn't believe that humans have an influence, and he thinks that's cute.
yeah.
That's funny. Do you think we have a chance of electing a Democrat member
God,
of
I
the House?
hope so.
Hopefully the pendulum swings as it usually does. Hopefully.
So what are you doing to get out the vote? I mean, what are the concrete tactics that you're using to get people to register and then to the polls who are 18?
You need to keep in mind that me and Makayla, we're not going to be able to vote when that's coming up. I mean, at least this time.
We can
it's so close.
pre-register. You can pre-register as young as 16, which is something I would recommend doing to anyone. It's actually really easy to do.
Can you do it online?
Yeah. I believe we have a link to it on the Never Again Chico page. If it's not, I will make sure it is.
Rock the Vote probably would do that for people if they went to their website.
Yeah. It's super easy to just look it up. It's super easy to do, and then you don't have to worry about it. And yeah. It's more getting people out, I think.
Right.
That'd be harder, but
Well, absentee ballots really help because you don't have to go anywhere.
I think there's also, we're in such a crazy political time right now that it's like you could get so focused on one thing, you can miss a million other things that are just as important. I think it's important to point those out because, for example, people in the LGBTQ community are going to look at Doug LaMalfa's strict anti-homosexuality stance, and they're going to focus on that. However, it's just as important to point out how against he is with climate control or how against he is stuff like marijuana. You know, it's a bunch of stuff like that, which we need to keep pointing out because people will focus on one thing.
I'm hearing a lot of organizers say that people have made the mistake of being in their silo and that we need to realize that the economic system underlies all those silos. So there has to be an interconnected activist movement of movements to change the global economic system. But then that's huge.
Yeah.
To try to tackle that.
Yeah.
And so that's why a lot of people are talking about local organizing. Think globally, act locally.
Yeah.
I think that's a big deal because we are so much, we think of the president in such a high position. Of course, that's going to be the election most people focus on because we think of the president in the highest position, so we're like, that's important. But really, local votes are just as important because if you don't start small, you're not going to get big. You need to let the snowball roll down the hill.
You must be a fetus first.
Technically, you're an embryo first, and then you're a fetus.
That's true.
My bad.
What about the student leadership on campus? Like, does that have any kind of activist component, or is it about school spirit and cheerleading or something?
The government classes are definitely, they're focused on school, they're focused on the budget, they're focused on making rallies happen. Like, that's just what they're focused on, and they're not built to talk about activism or political issues.
Or critique the educational system in any way?
No.
No.
Based on what I know, I'm not in the class, so I can't say for sure, but based on what I know, they don't have that.
They specifically stick to, this is from what I've heard, of course I'm not in there either, so I can possibly be incorrect, but from what I heard, they very much just focus on like school activities and stuff.
Yeah, like making posters and...
Yeah,
like,
and when it actually comes down to stuff like promoting activism and stuff like that, they're not going to be able to do that because the school isn't allowed to take a political stance, so the school can't really promote that. That's why if you hang up a political poster at the school, it'll get teared down as soon as it's seen.
Yeah, I'm really fast.
Isn't there like a Democrat or Republican club or something like that?
There was a Republican... Okay.
I didn't know about this.
TPUSA. I don't know if you're too familiar with TPUSA, Turning Point USA. They're a very big conservative club led by the one and only Ben Shapiro.
Is this
My
a national
God.
group?
This is at our school?
What?
Is this at our school?
Is this local or national?
There was. It's an international thing, and they're promoting at like colleges, but they're also doing like high school level stuff. And there was a TPUSA at our school. However,
I don't know what clubs mean much because we also have the Flat Earth Club.
Oh, that was a joke. But the thing is about it, I kind of want to talk about this because it's kind of funny. It was so infiltrated by just left-leaning people who wanted to go there to laugh at it that essentially it was kind of it just kind of ended after the first meeting because the reason they're getting so many people there were people went there to essentially laugh at it, since the poster, I have it hanging in my room. I found it so hilarious. It had a I heart capitalism and socialism sucks and a bunch of stuff like that on it, which is absolutely hilarious. I love that poster.
That was a
more
quote?
than I love my own life. Yeah, the thing is, they weren't even writings. It was just photos ripped off from the internet, pasted onto a piece of paper,
gosh, you can't
printed
even
out,
put your
and
own
hung
work
up.
in there?
However, sadly, it turned out the club was more about the economy than it was actually politics. In fact, my friends who went in there, the teacher was essentially let's forget about the politics. We're just going to be talking about the economy. And then it ended because no one really cared anymore.
No one cares about the economy. I mean, I care about the economy, but...
I care about the economy, but so many people went to just kind of laugh at it, that the moment they're oh, we can't laugh at this, no point of going.
So what's coming up? What are you organizing now? What's in the near future?
For Never Again Chico, we are trying to organize, I believe, a mass voting to get people registered before this next vote.
And how will you do that? I mean, is it a physical location or online or what?
Most likely, we will be at or near high schools. We haven't had an official meeting about it yet, but it will be soon, and we'll have information out soon.
So, anything else that's happening with Never Again besides voting registration?
I'm not a part of Never Again, so I don't know.
I mean, you can join us. We'd love to
I'm
have
officially a member of Never Again.
you. He's joined.
If you were going to pick another issue beside gun control, what would it be?
Ooh, that's a good one. Do you want to go first?
She's thinking.
Don't mess this up.
There's a lot of stuff up there that could be addressed. Possibly gender equality. I think it's really funny. I bring up sometimes that we still don't have equal pay as women, and
Ooh, that's
men don't believe me,
Oh, it's true.
and I'm like, it's true.
And there's women are only 20% of Congress, and there's not very many of the CEOs, and da 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 da.
Here's an excellent book, by the way, about that I'm still currently reading. I haven't finished it yet. It's called The Second Shift, and it's essentially about how women are
Arlie
kind of
Hochschild.
forced into, they're kind of forced into household positions, and how that very heavily affects the pay because they're being forced into like housework and stuff, you know? So when it comes down to that, it's like they're getting paid less because not only do they have to work, they have to focus on the household work too because men don't do as much. So read that if
Yeah.
you're interested in it.
That's
That
an old
is
classic.
interesting.
Yeah.
I'll read that.
And are you going to still talk? I'm sorry.
I was just commenting that I would read that book.
Okay. I was going to say, for the thing I want to talk about, I want to, this is going to be kind of controversial and a weird thing for a high school student to talk about.
It's okay.
The importance of taxes. Can we talk about the importance?
Can we please?
Because so many people have an anti-tax stance because they're like, the government's taking my money and I'm working for it. They don't deserve my money. And it's a big thing where people are essentially, they're taking anti-tax stances because they're kind of trained to think that poor people, they just aren't working hard. And because of that, they shouldn't get my money. So you have a lot of people who are like, we should pay, well, okay, not a lot of people. Lots of people want tax cuts. And there are a small group of people who are like, we should have absolutely no taxes, you know? And their thoughts are, it's going to help the poor because now they're paying no money. However, the poor already get tax cuts, so it won't really help them as much as it'll help the wealthy.
Well,
you
that's
know?
what the Republican tax cut did. that they passed
Exactly.
Last year.
That's
and
why I want to
created
talk
$1
about it.
trillion
Is
deficit.
we saw that happen, and it was such like a we're saving you money thing that we didn't even think about what the consequences of that will be.
Well, then they'll
and
say,
why-
oh, well, we have a deficit, so we have to cut children's health, which they already have talked about. And
Yeah.
we'll have to cut Medi-Cal and Medicare and Social Security. And yeah, it's scary.
Yeah.
Before we move on, we should have universal health care, and I don't care if you disagree with me because we should. Look at Canada.
Well, every
Losers.
industrial nation has it. It's barbaric that people have to die and suffer and go bankrupt because they don't have health insurance.
Yeah.
There are people who will argue that the rich deserve it because they're working harder, while the poor don't because they
Tell
just
that to
aren't
the
working
cleaning
hard enough.
person in the oh gosh.
Equal pay, because otherwise, all we're gonna have is rich people alive, and then everyone's gonna be a snob.
Whoa. Let's not get too communist here. We'll be called out when people won't listen to us.
My bad.
Let's move on before we start talking
well-
about socialism.
Let me give thanks to our underwriters. So you've been listening to Ask Dr. Gayle, and the next show, the second Thursday of the month, is going to be Chris Nelson's going to do women's health, and this show will be on YouTube. Look for Gayle Kimball Global Youth. Ask Dr. Gayle is made possible by the generous contributions of KZFR supporters and by Chico Chai. Spiced tea brewed fresh in small batches. Now offering bottles of iced Chico Chai with Bieber fresh almond milk. Available at Chico Natural Foods, New Earth Market, and Vaccio Carryout, as well as their booth at the Saturday Farmers Market. More information at chicochaitea.com. It's really good, and they have some that's decaffeinated, which I like. Ask Dr. Gayle is made possible by also Hall Marketing Design. Owner Charlotte Hall and her team can get your business the attention it desires through creative marketing, design, and branding. They are specialists in creating brochures, websites, ads, and promotional materials. Whether you're a new business or a business looking for a new look, Hall Marketing and Design can create an image that fits your style. For a free consultation, call 895-9484 or visit hallmarketingdesign.com. Thank you very much for listening to Ask Dr. Gayle, and thank you very much to our panel of articulate, bright change makers. And now stay tuned for Peanut Butter and Jelly Time with Sandra. Yay, take it away.
Thank you, guys.
R&D with capitalism. That's so good.
Sandra, no, Sandy, S-A-N, I'll write it down.
God. I swear this tooth's gonna fall off. I had this temporary, well, my tooth fell off. This is super glued in, and so they gave me this temporary cement when I get my new one, and I swear to God it's moving as I speak.
Thanks, guys.
Down up, please. Way.
Is it your water?
Yes.
Peanut butter jelly. Peanut butter jelly. Peanut butter jelly. I haven't read this book yet, so I hope I don't stumble over the words and have my tooth fall down my throat.
Oh, God.
It fell out while I was eating a hamburger last night. And I went,
Ooh, it sounds like it's working.
oh, crazy. There you go.
Is that too loud?
Jelly. Peanut butter jelly. Peanut butter jelly. Baseball bat. Peanut butter jelly with the baseball bat. Freestyle, 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 freestyle,
Ooh, that's
freestyle.
loud.